zone to win the ball game, and Lincoln Riley's team had no ability to stop them.
They had no defense, and they actually have an interior defense here of a bunch of really good players.
They actually out-physical USC or Michigan, which is it's an E-blast. I'm giving props to USC,
sure.
But I don't think Michigan's very good. They will lose to USC. Or USC will lose to Notre Dame when they play them.
I don't know about that. You could say Michigan doesn't look good, but I think USC is a pretty good team. They have a really good run game. Their quarterback's solid. I really like him. And their receivers, they've probably the two best receivers in the Big Ten.
I'm giving them credit. I'm saying they're not going to beat Notre Dame. That's
fair. It's your
and
opinion.
they will be eliminated from the playoff contention at that point. Now, they still could be in the Big Ten conversation.
Yeah.
Look, I'm giving Lincoln Riley credit because even they're improving, but they're not there yet. And beating Michigan at home does not.
That's one of the best wins he's had at USC already. And getting into the Big Ten, you got to have those big wins, especially at home against a blue blood, even though Michigan's not the same Michigan they were 2 years ago with Jim Harbaugh. But I'm saying they're on the right track. They have confidence, and that interior defense is solid. Now, they have secondary issues, no question, but Lemon's great. Kobe's great. They have some better receivers. This kid, King Miller, is a fantastic runner of the football, and they have big human beings on defense that they lacked last year. Number one recruiting class as we sit in 2026. So Lincoln Riley came into extremely dysfunctional program, which was USC at that point. I mean, it was just a shred of what they used to be. And when he took over at Oklahoma, that wasn't a dysfunctional program. He took over for Stoops, and they had structure there. There was no structure out in California. I think he's finally getting it. I'm going to wait on that Notre Dame game. I think it's going to be tough for them to win, but I'll see. I don't know. I like to see the spread on that one.
I still think, and again, I'm not. You're preaching to the blast was for USC. Credit to Lincoln Riley because they are better, but it's year 4 for crying out loud.
Sure,
they better be better at some point.
No doubt.
Because they've been talking about his buyout for a while now, and so credit there. But I think Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame are better because I think Notre Dame is going to the playoff, even with the 2 losses.
They got to win out, right?
I didn't think so after the A&M loss, after losing to Miami. But as A&M keeps winning and Miami keeps winning, those losses don't look as bad. And I think it's fair to say that Miami and A&M are both legitimate top 1 or 2 kind of teams in the country right now. And so I think Marcus Freeman's team at home, I think, will take care of USC. But either way, the Big Ten needs a 4th team. And I don't know who that's going to be. Because it's Ohio State, it's Indiana, probably Oregon. I know.
Maybe they don't. Maybe the SEC only had 3 last year.
That's exactly right. Everybody just assumes. I think the Big Ten assumes they may not have one. That's kind of the point here. They may not have one, especially if Notre Dame takes care of USC at South Bend in a couple of weeks. That's a huge game. But let me just say on the Aggies on an E-blast, and we'll get to the Longhorns coming up at the bottom of the hour. We can stop calling the Aggies a dark horse.
For sure.
And, of course, Texas got beat by Florida when they didn't take them seriously and didn't prepare for them. Mike Elko said from Monday that's the most talented team we've played. And to get that team on your field and beat them, double them up 34-17, they're getting better. And they were already pretty good. I still think they have a bit of a ceiling at quarterback with Marcel Reed, but much like we're saying with Arch Manning, they need Marcel Reed to be a facilitator. They need Marcel Reed to take off and run when it's there. They need Marcel Reed to get the ball to Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. They need their quarterback to hand the ball to Le'Veon Moss behind a really good offensive line and an improving defense, which is Mike Elko's side of the ball. And I'm sitting here watching the SEC in an E-blast, and the best team is Alabama because they stubbed their toe early against Florida State, facing an offense and a lot of players they didn't know much about, and they didn't prepare well, and they lost. And Kalen DeBoer was immediate, hot seat. But they've rallied, and for them to go on the road and beat Georgia, come home and beat Vanderbilt, and turn around the next week and go beat Missouri at 11 in the morning, and it was a really good game.
It was.
I mean, we told you that's going to be a close game. The Vegas line was only 3.5. I was happy to take Missouri in 3.5, and I covered, but the final score was 3 points, 27-24. And the only thing that separated Alabama from Missouri was Ty Simpson. Alabama has a quarterback. And, as Arch Manning keeps improving, Gunnar Stockton, Garrett Nussmeier still having a bad year. I'm not sure about Ole Miss with the Trinidad, the quarterback. I don't know. But I think right now, if you're saying who's the best team in the SEC, it's Alabama. And I think they have the best quarterback. Because what Ty Simpson has gone on the road and done twice already. Because, again, Florida State, they didn't lose because of him.
No.
He actually played well against Florida State. Their defense didn't show up. And Florida State ran all over him. Ty Simpson's a really good player, and he was the difference in that game. How about this? The unflappable Ty Simpson, in his first year as a starter, helped Alabama on the road convert 9 of 18 third downs and fourth downs. And on a huge 4th and 8 in the final minute or 5 minutes of that game to go get the game-winning score, he threw an absolute dime on a 4th and 8. He was the difference. And so if you're saying, okay, SEC contenders in our E-blast, A&M's a really good team. I think Texas has shown you what their ceiling can be with their performance on Saturday. Georgia's a really good team to go in, and we'll get to the officials because they need to be put on blast. This officiating.
How good is Georgia?
SEC.
I mean, they win games, but
and I think Alabama's right in here. Ole Miss.
I'm throwing Texas Tech in this mix too.
Well, I'm talking about the SEC.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, because Texas Tech is in the Big 12, SEC, who's going to represent SEC? The best team who has the best quarterback is Alabama. And right now, to me, that separates them from the others. Arch Manning can keep improving. I think his ceiling is high, but again, he's a first-year starter just like Ty Simpson, but he's not playing as well as Ty Simpson. I don't know that there's any quarterback in the country outside of the Indiana QB who's playing as well as that guy. And he's the reason his team is winning games right now. Like we're telling you, Arch Manning just has to drive the bus. But Arch was the reason Texas won the game Saturday, in addition to a great running game and the defense. But point being, in a very narrow conversation about who the best team in the SEC is, I'm going to say it's Alabama because I think their quarterback is the best. And if he keeps getting better, Alabama's going to be really hard to beat for anybody. Sure, I mean, Texas Tech is in this, but they play in the Big 12.
No, I know. You're talking SEC. I'm just going off top teams.
They're going to win that going away. No, I'm talking about Big Ten
specifically
SEC.
SEC, yeah.
So I went from Big Ten, and where they may only have 3 teams, where the SEC may have 6. But they're not all going to get in, and they're going to knock each other off.
Right.
And
the most you get's 5 if the Big Ten gets 3.
So if you're a Texas fan sitting here thinking, okay, where do we got to do? Look, Texas already has 2 losses, so they can't lose again. I think that's fair to say. Some would think that if they could, they'd still lose to Georgia and maybe find their way in. That's not impossible. But, man, that's late season losses hurt.
You'd have to have teams in front of you lose. LSU will have to lose again.
But here's the thing with Texas
Vanderbilt, you got to beat them.
Because Georgia's going to be in that mix, too. Because if you lose to Georgia, not only have a 3rd loss, that could be the reason they get in. Right? I mean, if they're looking – because let's just play it out to where it is right now in the SEC, and I know there's still 6 weeks of football left. But Alabama, A&M, and Ole Miss are the top 3. So teams like Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU, they're all pushing for that 4th spot. Well, here's where Texas is. And again, if Texas is going to play 2 of those teams, right? Texas is going to play A&M. Well, Vanderbilt's going to be in that conversation too with a narrow loss. And again, the score does not indicate how close the Vanderbilt-Alabama game was. Vanderbilt's good, and Texas. Think about the teams that are going to be pushing for that 4th spot in the SEC, or maybe a 5th spot. Texas is in that mix, but they play Vanderbilt, who's going to be in that discussion. They play Georgia, who's going to be in that discussion, and they play A&M, who's in that discussion. So if you're Texas and you're sitting there saying, we're going to go week by week, which we have to do, we control that. If we knock each one of those teams off on our way to going 7-1 in SEC play, Texas will assure themselves a spot in, and they'll knock out the teams that they're jockeying with, and they may not have to play in the SEC title game. Now, they still could very well, but A&M's undefeated. Alabama is an undefeated team in conference play. Those teams could be on a collision course, and Alabama and A&M don't play in the regular season. Who's going to beat Bama at this point?
Yeah, LSU's offense looks terrible.
I know.
They go into Tuscaloosa, too. I mean, it looks like, I watched that game. They played South Carolina.
If Alabama was going to lose a conference game, I thought it was going to be at Georgia, this trip to Missouri, that Vanderbilt game. I think they got through their gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, LSU, that's the one team you look on their schedule. That should be a tougher one, but Garrett Nussmeier...
Don't they both get a bye for that?
Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier just limps everywhere he goes, and he just has not looked like the player he was last year. Now, that defense is really solid, but that was a tough watch. They won 20-10, night game in Baton Rouge, and they had fans leaving in that game. It was a one-score game against South Carolina.
And here's what's compelling for me, because we're playing this out, and I'm talking about the power conferences. Because, look, I said last week, and I'll just double down, Texas Tech's going to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see Utah smack Arizona State playing without Sam Leavitt?
Yeah, Sam Leavitt, but still.
I mean,
we saw what they did to Utah at Utah.
Texas Tech is far and away the best team in that conference, and they're as good as some of these SEC teams we're talking about. They don't play them.
For sure. Right.
They won't play them until you get to a playoff. So you go ahead and put Texas Tech in. Does the Big 12 get a second? I doubt it. Maybe.
Who would that be?
ACC's best team's Miami. And who's the second? Is it Georgia Tech? I don't know. So, so those are there in. And then there's going to be a group of 16 that right now looks like they're like South Florida or Memphis.
Right.
Because North Texas got wrecked.
Which they could play each other in the American Championship.
How about North Texas? We talked about that game all last week, and my daughter went to that game. Up 21-7 with 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. And by 4 minutes into the third quarter, it was 42-21.
Yeah, they got 63 points.
That was unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Coaches talk about the last 4 minutes, first 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That's always the 8-minute window that decides football games. Last 4 of the half, first 4 of the half. Texas, by the way, look at them. They dominated the last 4 of the first half, the first 4 of the second half. Typically, that decides outcomes of football games. That's why coaches defer the coin toss, because they want that ball at the end of the half so they can try to double dip and steal a possession. Because the theory of deferring the coin toss is if your defense go on the field, get you 3 and out, you now get the ball, and now you have stolen a possession to start the second half, and so you can try to play the end of the game. But either way, North Texas was up 21-7. And if they just play the last 4 minutes better, they went to halftime 21-all because they muffed a punt. And, ridiculous. South Florida was just punting the ball down there for them to run out the clock and go to halftime 21-14. Kid drops it, gives them a free touchdown, and then they came out with the ball, and the next thing you knew it was 42-21. It's unbelievable. But either way, so that's going to knock North Texas out, and they learned how to get in a heavyweight fight, and they weren't ready for it for Eric Morris's team. But South Florida is. So South Florida, Memphis, to me, there's 3 teams you can go ahead and pencil. Texas Tech, Miami, and whoever that team is.
And I'll pencil Ohio State.
Well, sure. But, those are but in the power group, they still got to knock each other off. But I would say, I'm putting those in. Ohio State will probably earn their way in. I think Alabama has shown they're going to be in. Like Florida State was in this conversation, and now they lost again.
Lost 3 games now.
They're going to be out. The only team in the ACC who could be a second team is Georgia Tech with Haynes King and company, and they probably win out. How about Georgia Tech? Georgia Tech will likely win out until they're 9-0 with Haynes King and an undefeated group, and their last 2 games are home to Pitt.
We just won a big game.
And then home to Georgia. Well, now, the Georgia game won't count for an ACC game. But
it's in Atlanta, too. Just a heads up there. They changed that.
Well, that's a home game.
Yeah, technically a home game, yes. But it's in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Yeah, I looked it up yesterday. That's their home game. And wherever they play it, so again, it's not between the hedges. They almost won all those overtimes in between the hedges last year. Right. So in these E-Blasts, it's starting to take shape. There's still a ton of football. And we'll get, at the end of this month, we'll get our first committee rankings that'll come out, and that'll be another step. But we're starting to see this thing solidify. I'm just pointing out that the Big Ten may not have a 4th team.
Yeah, possibly, right.
Behind the Big 3. And Oregon needs to keep winning now.
Oregon needs to keep winning.
And Indiana's a real deal contender. But
Penn State's out.
The SEC, y'all, there's like 9 teams. I think there's 3, the 3 undefeateds deserve where they're at. But then there's like 7 other teams that are right where Texas is.
What about a team like Tennessee? What if they go in and somehow beat Alabama this weekend?
I know.
Crazy matchup. You got Missouri. Look at their schedule. You telling me Missouri's not going to win minimally? They lose to A&M possibly. They can go beat Vanderbilt.
Loss, if Missouri runs it out, and their only loss was to a 3-point late loss to Alabama.
Missouri plays Auburn, Vanderbilt, A&M at home, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Oklahoma could be dead in the water at that point, in Arkansas. They could maybe lose. I think they'd lose probably one of those games. Possibly 2.
Again, I will just quote Sark, man. It's put your head down and win your game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't worry about it. See when the dust settles after November, see where you're at, and control what you can control.
You only have one SEC loss right now.
We on the radio can sit here and do this, and it's fun.
Yep.
But man, get ready for Kentucky, because Kentucky's not one of these teams we're talking about, but you got to go beat them. And then you got to go beat Mississippi State. And then you got to finally come back home and handle a very good Vanderbilt team. And then you got to get ready for Arkansas, or Georgia, Arkansas, and A&M. Texas is, and we'll hear Sark talking about this, because the win over Oklahoma is a huge step forward. It gets your season back on track potentially. It certainly keeps you in the conversation, and it shows that you have a pretty high ceiling as a team if you bring all 3 phases and your quarterback keeps improving. But man, SEC, man, it's the real deal. It is so much fun.
There's so many good teams.
It's so much deep. And the Big Ten may have taken over as far as the top, because Ohio State, Michigan, back to back.
Oregon's looked really good.
But
obviously, until they played Ohio State.
There's no doubt that the SEC is far deeper. The
deepest conference, yeah.
Far deeper in really good teams.
Like you said, there's 9 teams maybe 10 teams that can make the playoffs still.
And Texas is in there.